Welcome back to the Connor Lewis podcast. And today we are joined by Jamie Smith, Head of Compliance at Clemson University. Jamie, how are you?
Connor, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Jamie, I was looking at my notes when I was preparing questions for this interview, and we were planning to do this interview for close to a year now. Can you believe that?
I can't. It has been what feels like such a short amount of time, but it has been a decent amount of time since I've last seen you and spoken with you. But happy to be here and grateful for the chance to chat with you.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this one. I've been waiting to do this one for a while. For people that are unaware, which is probably most people, I interned at URI. Jamie, you were like the first person I met on my first day. You were in office before Jeff, go figure. And we spoke for what felt like a long amount of time, and we clicked, and you've been a great mentor, and I've learned a lot from you. So I'm happy we're doing this. I'm really excited. And I'm going to ask you a lot of questions about your career and like what you're doing at Clemson now. But first, I want to start with how you're feeling about the Knicks right now. Do you have anything to say about that? Because I know your New York fandom, you're quite famous for it. So I didn't know if you have any thoughts on that, or maybe the MLB season that's coming up very soon.
Great question, Connor. You know how to get me going. Listen, my Knicks, I got full faith in them. We got a win last night, and we're focused on what's ahead. So we're trying to finish out the season strong, and my loyalty will always lie with them. So I try not to base my emotions too much on the outcomes of their games, but I'm definitely rooting for them to hopefully put up a banner at the end of the year. We'll see what happens.
You're so well PR trained. I don't know how you do it. I would not be if you asked me about the Mavericks, I would not say the same. Anyway, let's talk about your career. Let's talk about you. Let's start with your position right now at Clemson. Can you tell me a little bit about what a director of compliance is? Because I don't think many people are familiar, but it's a very vital role to college sports. So if you could explain that and what that role entails.
Absolutely. So I'm the director of compliance at Clemson, as you mentioned. So I'm a part of a 6-person office, actually. So we have the head of our office actually is in more of a front office capacity now. Amanda Richardson, she just got elevated actually to a deputy AD role. So the way our office is structured is by sport and bylaws. So NCAA bylaws, that is. So I'm primarily responsible for men's soccer, women's gymnastics, and women's rowing here at Clemson. So I'm their compliance contact, their liaison between the coaching staff and the student athletes and administration in a compliance capacity. So work hand in hand with them with recruiting endeavors. We're looking at prospects, in high school and in the transfer portal and making sure that we have all the pieces that we need in order to get them onto campus. And my counterparts in my office have other sports, and then we all kind of overlap. So I also assist with complimentary tickets for all of our ticketed sports. And so that's with football, basketball, lacrosse, baseball, softball, men's soccer. We actually do ticket a lot of sports, gymnastics. So I help out with those. And then something that's called a time management plan, which is basically the schedules for the student athletes. There's a certain number of hours that student athletes can practice, can compete. And so basically the overarching goal of the compliance services office is to maintain the integrity of our institution, our athletic department, and serve the needs of the coaches and the student athletes. We're there to interpret NCAA rules and try to make them digestible and implement them on campus. So very much in a customer service role, if you will, front facing with the coaches and the student athletes. And it's been a blast so far.
And you've been, like, at least to some capacity, a part of compliance at Clemson at URI for a couple of years now, a good amount of time. How have you seen your role change over time with developments in like NIL and transfer portal? I think more so like last year it was more prevalent maybe, but I still feel as though it's something to be discussed.
Definitely. So NIL has completely evolved over the time period that I've been in compliance, actually stemming back from when I was a 5th-year student athlete at the University of Rhode Island. That was the first year of NIL. And I remember nobody knew what this truly meant for student athletes. And were you doing things wrong? And is this allowed? And what could you actually do? So it's completely transitioned to now NIL is really prominent, and a lot of student athletes do have NIL deals nowadays. If they don't, they at least have some understanding of what it is. And, now NIL marketing agents are involved. Agents used to be somewhat of a bad word in college athletics. You used to have to stay away from agents and professional representation. You still kind of have to, but now they're completely intertwined in a different capacity from a marketing standpoint. So it's just a lot about educating student athletes, coaches, staying up to date with the news. Every day you see some breaking news story or a new court case or whatnot that is affecting college athletics. So it's just been really important to stay up to date with current events, especially in the NIL space. Now, in addition to the NCAA being the governing body of college athletics, we have a second governing entity called the College Sports Commission, which is in charge of governing name, image, and likeness and everything that's encompassed under the House settlement, which really shook up college athletics just over a year ago. So it's been a crazy time, but I think there's a sense of fun in the craziness and trying to figure out how to, we're all in the same boat, but how can you figure out how to row your boat faster than other institutions? And from a compliance standpoint, do it in a way that, again, is with integrity and ultimately putting the best foot forward for the university.
I have a lot of friends that are like Division I student athletes, and they're still figuring out like how NIL works. So it's been, from an outsider's point of view, it's so interesting to see the differences in viewpoints, I guess, from someone who's actually working in a college versus just a student athlete. So I guess that leads me to like my next question of like, what does a typical day look like for you? Like, you're going into office. Do you have things that you know are going to happen, like things that you are guaranteed, like meetings that you kind of always have maybe on a weekly basis, or is every day kind of different?
Every day is sort of different depending on the needs of the coaches that I'm helping out. Depending on the time of year, it could be a different recruiting cycle based on recruiting calendars of different sports. I have a fall sport, a winter sport, and a spring sport. Again, depending on that time of year, it could depend on, are we bringing a lot of recruits on visits? Are we focusing on, is it the end of the semester and we're focusing on making sure that we're getting our initial enrollees for the following semester onboarded? In which case, then I'm working with another member of my office. It's a lot of collaboration, a lot of teamwork. For me, again, being responsible for comp tickets for players and managers and whatnot, we have a lot of games going on, especially in crossover season between basketball and spring sports, baseball, softball, lacrosse. So I'm checking tickets all the time and whatnot. And then every now and then you'll have a meeting with a student athlete, or there might be a chance to jump in on a different new event for that day. Like, for example, this morning I was at our pro day for our football players. So that was a really unique experience, getting to see agents come in, NFL scouts and coaches from different NFL teams, and ultimately seeing our guys go out there and show their talent. So it's every day is a little bit different, I would say. And I think that's the answer a lot of athletic administrators will give, is that you don't really know what you're walking into every day. But my mindset is always just to show up and try to be impactful in some way, whether that's a small impact on someone's day, being able to make somebody smile, make somebody laugh, or ultimately solve a problem. That's my ultimate goal, is to solve problems and to be resourceful for people.
Not to steer off course too much, but I'm curious to know
Do it.
what what can you say? What is like your role on like a day like today with like with the pro day, and like you're seeing these scouts? Are you just kind of observing? Are you involved at all in the drills? Are you throwing the rock a little bit, or how are you getting involved there?
So I'm not involved in throwing the rock. That is something that I stay away from. Today, it was more just to be there to listen, to learn, to observe. I was there with the head of our office, Henry Archuleta. He's my supervisor. He's been integral in allowing me different opportunities beyond just my job description, in terms of being able to work with football and to help build relationships there and network. So I was following his lead. We were checking in agents, checking in families and player guests, and just ultimately making sure that everyone was having a good time and if anyone had any questions. But ultimately, there just to observe the guys and to be supportive. And sometimes that's the best thing is just being able to be in a room, or if you get the opportunity to be somewhere, to just be able to listen and to learn. That's something that I'm really passionate about, is learning from different people who come from different walks of life and have different experiences. So it was neat to see at this level the pro day and how it was being executed and the operations and behind the scenes, because there's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes that you or I would probably not even know about.
Yeah. It's certainly interesting because you see the highlights online, I think. I think like I'm on Instagram a lot, so I see all the pro highlights when someone throws like a 60-yarder and someone just catches it on their phone. So it's really interesting to hear from a first person point of view. So I did not know that families are like going to these events, and maybe that's just something I should have known. So I assume they're just watching, right? They're just watching from the stands, or like how does that work? I know that's not really your wheelhouse, but I'm just curious to know how that happens.
Yes, so families can watch, and they're off at a distance because we don't want any family interaction with NFL coaches. There's certain rules there that are kind of beyond NCAA compliance, and more so just with NFL draft rules, but they're there to support their sons that are participating in the day, and it's really neat. Clemson does an incredible job of with all of our sports making families feel welcomed and player guests, and I think it's important, right? Because you got student athletes who are coming from all over the country, sometimes different countries, and they're putting a bunch of hard work and dedication into their craft and into their sport. And it's nice to be able to give back to those who have supported them along their journey. So that's something that Clemson, they always reference here the Clemson family, and it's sounds cliche, but it's really not. The people here genuinely do care about each other, and that extends to the families of the student athletes and making sure that they're having a good experience as well.
All I can say is you're making me wish I went to Clemson. That's the only thing I can say. You're getting me so fired up.
Connor.
No, you got me feeling like, man, I could have a whole nother family. I'm totally missing. No, but it does sound that's really interesting. I don't think I knew enough about pro day to really understand that. Now, I kind of want to jump back, if this is okay to talk about you going from URI to Clemson. I mean, it's very different. We talked about before we started filming about the weather difference. That's a pretty big difference. But I'm curious to know how you feel like your life has changed from a career standpoint, but also just like a lifestyle way. Because I assume life is very different down there. I've never been, but I'm curious to know like your experience there.
It's definitely different, but a lot of things are similar, right? So the experience that I had at Rhode Island was one of the best experiences I've ever had as a student athlete, and transitioning into first in a coaching role and then into an administrative position. The support from the top down was unwavering. The staff at the University of Rhode Island is incredible, and the same thing is true here at Clemson. It's just on a larger scale, right? So our operations here at Clemson are a little bit larger in terms of numbers. Our athletic department is about 400 employees. Rhode Island was, I believe, in the hundreds or something like that. So a little bit different, but the mission still remains the same. I think we're all here to serve the needs of the student athlete. And for me personally, it's been a challenging transition. I'll be honest, in terms of I'm from New York, as you may remember. So I've been up north my entire life, and my family's up there, my friends are up there, but it was something that for me, for personal development and professional development, moving down here and just taking a risk of, all right, I know a few people down here, and I'm gonna just kind of keep going and start over per se. It was a little bit of a challenge in the beginning, and it still is. I'm still trying to get my footing, but I think again, me being strong in my values and my beliefs, I remain true to those. I'm trying to serve the needs of the student athletes. I'm trying to be a better person every day, just find ways to win the day. I think that's a huge thing is, I can try to look long term, big picture, and get all these ideas in my head of what I want to do, career goals, aspirations, but ultimately I'm trying to be present where I'm at and just take it day by day. And I think that there's power and there's learning in that and being able to kind of slow things down. And the South is a little bit slower. You can definitely slow things down here from a cultural standpoint. But it's been pretty neat expanding my network here at Clemson and learning from some really incredible people. Our athletic director, Graham Neff, he is awesome. His office is right across from mine. You see him daily and he's always on the move. And so I think it's just meeting new people, learning from their experiences. I love to ask questions. I want to know how people are doing things, why they're doing it, understanding the organization and how it's structured. But again, ultimately the goals and the mission of both universities are very similar in terms of college athletics.
That's actually a pretty good follow up. Is like how have you seen the people like perform and act differently, like in your workspace versus like at Rhode Island versus at Clemson? Because as you like you said, it's slower. But I'm curious to know like what you mean by that. Not trying to like I gotcha question, but like I'm curious to know like what you mean by that.
Yeah, so when I referenced it slower, I meant the South, not Clemson. Clemson
No. Oh yes. Yeah. Okay.
is
Yeah.
a fast paced, moving athletic department, constantly trying to find ways to be better, to be efficient. And I think that's something that's been really neat about being down here is that we just have more personnel. So the people that I see in my day to day, there's certain departments that I never see. You are able to interact with them at different, whether it be events, meetings, games, and whatnot, and everyone's super friendly and willing to be welcoming and answer any questions you may have. You'll see someone in the break room and whatnot, and that was very similar at Rhode Island, right? Like I could see someone in the hallway, have a conversation, feel comfortable going to talk to somebody and ask them more about their role. I think again, there's just different priorities in terms of being in a Power Four conference and being a part of the ACC. In terms of the things that we're dealing with here, just on a higher level in terms of we're dealing with more dollars, right? We have more resources and more revenue. That being said, I think it ultimately stems back to the mission remains the same, serving the student athlete, trying to find ways to be creative, remain competitive, but also from a compliance standpoint, making sure that we're doing things the right way, but also making sure that we're trying to be competitive and put our student athletes and our coaches in the best spot possible to be successful.
Gotcha. I did not mean that Clemson is slow. Just putting that on the record. I did not mean that Clemson. If anyone's listening, I would still love to talk to anybody from Clemson. I just want I just want to be clear on that. That's not at all where I was going with that.
The South is a different pace than the North
Yeah.
from a personal standpoint. It is just a different pace, and not that one is better than the other, right? People are just different from coming from different walks of life, like I mentioned. So it's different. It's kind of nice though sometimes. Not, coming from New York, people are honking at you all the time when you're driving to speed up. Here, you can go a little bit slower. Take your time.
No, that's a good point. I went to New York a couple times over the last year, just visiting whatever, but it just seems like everyone is like, this is my world. You're just living in it. That's just kind of the vibe I get. I'm not speaking for the entire city of New York City, just kind of the vibe I get. And I haven't been south nearly enough, but that sounds very intriguing. Now, you mentioned before that your time playing volleyball it was Iona, right? You played for Iona first,
Correct.
and then you played for Rhode Island. So I'm curious to know, like, you spent many years as a student athlete. What skills and what lessons did you learn from being a student athlete that kind of carried over into your career? Because I think there's a lot of crossover there as far as like values and lessons go. So I'm curious to know like your experience there.
There's a tremendous amount of crossover, and I think being a student athlete ultimately prepared me for the real world. And there's still that shock when you initially graduate and have to move on of, okay, I'm done playing volleyball, so how is this going to translate into getting a job and being a part of an organization? But it's really all similar. Being a part of a team, I learned how to sacrifice and put others before yourself. I think that's one of the most important things, is being able to see the bigger picture. And a lot of times it's not about you. My coach at Iona used to always say that it's not about you, meaning that, it's about the group as a whole, the team as a whole, and ultimately we're going to put the needs and the successes of the team before the individuals. So that was definitely something that I learned, being able to collaborate with others, ask questions, and be able to serve the needs of others. I think when you're on a team, and especially in a leadership capacity, I was a captain my senior year, you have to put others before yourself and figure out what's best for your team. I was also a student athlete during COVID, so having to navigate that was tremendously difficult, and there was a lot of unknowns, obviously, for a variety of different people. No one really knew what was going on, but I think the teamwork, the collaboration, the being able to make sacrifices, and then time management. I mean, I think of my schedule when I was a student athlete sometimes, how you'd wake up, you'd go to lift, you'd go to practice, then you got class, and then you do it all over again the next day, and then you have homework, and you got to watch film, and all these external things that are great things because they really do prepare you for your next phase of life. And hopefully while you're doing it, you're enjoying it, right? So I would give anything to go back and have maybe another year. That's another thing, being in compliance. Maybe I'll just write myself a waiver to be able to play again. Um, but all jokes aside, I think you really learn how to grind and how to push yourself, and that's something that I try to bring in my day to day now, because and I still do it in my personal life. I still train like fitness wise and try to maintain a healthy lifestyle. But I think, personal and professional kind of blend together in terms of your motives, and no one's coming and knocking on the door and telling you that you have to do something. You have to hold yourself accountable, and accountability was definitely something that was taught when I was at Iona and at Rhode Island. And so that's something that I still keep with me today. Got to be able to hold yourself accountable, and got to be able to push yourself, because if you don't push yourself, no one's going to push you. It's you versus you.
That's right. Now, when you talk about time management, it's something that I'm so interested in because I've become like such a like Google Calendar demon, so to speak. Like I put every little thing in there now. So I'm curious to know like what your process is. Are you using Google Calendar? Are you a physical calendar person? Like how do you go about there? I feel like, I don't know, this might be wrong, but I feel like this might be you or Jeff. A lot of sticky notes. Were you using a lot of sticky notes as well, or am I
I
misremembering that?
No, so I think I do have some sticky notes, and I
Okay.
can't remember if Jeff had the big whiteboard.
Yeah, yes,
Jeff
you're correct.
Jeff
Yeah.
was Jeff was whiteboard. I think he had multiple whiteboards, to be honest. I have a little whiteboard right on my desk that sometimes I'll occasionally write notes on. I do rely heavily on my calendar. We use Outlook at Clemson, so I rely on my Outlook calendar to make sure that I'm staying organized in terms of meetings. And I mean, I use my Apple reminders on my phone, right? Just to remember to do things. And then I also have a notebook. So I kind of blend a lot of different things together. I like to write things down, but I ultimately think having some sort of calendar is really helpful for me. And I mean, I have a calendar for everything, for trips, for, daily events that need to get taken care of. But I've always been that way. And I think it's because when I was a student athlete, you always had a schedule. You always knew when something was going to happen, what time you needed to be there. If something started at 6 p.m., I was there at 5:30 at least, and that mindset still carries over. It's funny. I've heard people talk about how when you're an athlete, sometimes, it's okay to be like 5 minutes early. That's appropriate. But when you're an athlete, sometimes you think you have to be so early because you're used to maybe a coach or a scenario that you were in one time where you might have been late, so you don't want to be late again. But yeah, definitely organized with a calendar. That's kind of how I get through my days.
Gotcha. And yes, the thing about I'm not a Division One athlete, but in high school, I definitely remember being as early as I could to AAU practice, to club practice, to high school practice, and that still carries over. Like I am unbelievably early to class where the door is not even unlocked to my lecture hall yet. And so I just wait outside 25 minutes before. So I can feel your pain on that. You mentioned before, like in your role, you have to be involved. You're involved with tickets a little bit. Is there any like task or anything that you are in charge and that you're surprised that comes with your role that you maybe weren't expecting at first? Because I feel like you get a lot of different answers with a question like this. So I'm curious to know your experience with that.
Good question. I don't think I was surprised by anything, but I think it's interesting how every organization kind of runs things a little bit differently. Again, with all of our sports, we sell tickets for a lot of our sports, and so the nice thing and the neat thing about compliance is that you work with a variety of different departments on campus, right? So I don't directly do this myself, but we work with admissions, we work with financial aid. And so I work with the ticket office on our tickets a lot. And so the NCAA has legislation on the certain number of tickets that a student athlete can receive for a game. So, not to bore you, but for a
Well, it's
regular
not boring. Please,
season,
I asked you. Please tell me. I'm very interested. I am interested. I promise.
okay, if you insist. For the regular season, it's 4 comp tickets per student athlete. And then for the postseason, which is like what we're in right now for basketballs, is 6 tickets. So I help out in monitoring, making sure that we're within our ticket allocations so that we can avoid any potential violations. And then it's a well-oiled machine here, especially for all of our sports, but when I think of a big operation such as football, right, where we're dealing with 105 student athletes on a roster who each get 4 tickets, or for postseason, each get 6 tickets. There's incredible people on their staff that help the student athletes request those tickets, and then I approve the guests, and we all kind of work together, going back to that teamwork and collaboration component to ultimately get to the finish line, which could be the game in this example, right? So it's a lot of behind the scenes. And then going back to your initial question of surprises, I think I was probably most surprised with how much this group works together. And by group, I mean our entire athletic department. Because even though we're separated by department and so many people, there's some people that I still haven't met yet, or might only know through emails, but it's very collaborative, and the overlap and the communication is so important, and it's just really awesome to see that on a large scale like this, but still have the family welcoming component embedded in the culture of the athletic department.
Gotcha. And again, it's not boring. The numbers stuff is very interesting to me. Again, I asked a question. I specifically referenced the ticket stuff. Anyway, you mentioned before, we talked a little bit about your playing career. So I'm curious to know if you have any particular memories that stick out to you about your playing career, either at Iona or at Rhode Island.
Yes, lots of memories. I guess one of my favorite memories I'll have to say was in 2018, which was my sophomore year at Iona. We ended up winning the MAC conference championship, and that was just one of the best feelings ever. We the MAC, I don't know if they still have this deal, but it's the AA MAC, the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, which I actually think they're renaming their conference. I heard.
Really? Oh,
I think so. So we were down in Orlando at ESPN Wide World Sports, and they had this deal, and I don't know if they still do, but I think it was every 4 years the MAC championships for volleyball would be down there. So that was our year to go down there. My teammates and I were all stoked to go to Disney and to be there, and it was just an awesome experience. And then being able to win it was just so gratifying. But
what was better, Disney or winning?
winning for sure. I mean, I love Disney, I love Universal, great places, but winning was so just special because we just had so many people work so hard. Not even just myself and my teammates. We had support staff who at Iona we didn't have as many resources. We were a mid-major institution, but you still got to play the game, right? The ball still looks the same, feels the same. You play on the same playing surface as everybody else who might have more resources. So we were just scrappy, and it was a really fun team. We had a really close knit group, and I still talk to a lot of my teammates from that team, and it was just a really cool experience because Iona had some tough seasons before those seasons. My freshman year, we made it to the conference finals, and then my sophomore year, like I said, we ended up winning. But the the public only sees, and it's just by nature, right? We see what's on TV or what's being live streamed, and usually it's the championship or the end game, but nobody sees the work that's put in the off season. I always, and I genuinely believe this, even when I was a player, coaching, and even now, like championships are won in the off season. I really firmly believe that. Like the work that you do when nobody's watching and the bright lights aren't on you, the cameras aren't on you, that's really what matters. And it's the most difficult time for sure. Like, because when you don't have people watching you and when you're not in the bright lights, it can be easy to kind of cave in and give up. But that group was so special because we had so many people a part of it that genuinely cared about each other, shared a goal in terms of wanting to win and wanting to do whatever it took to win. So that was one of my favorite moments for sure of my athletics career. And then at Rhode Island, it was really special to be a part of a different group. And we may not have had as much on court success, but it was just a unique experience of going to school right by the beach. I mean, you can't beat that. You can't beat having your own gym to play in. That's what we had at Rhode Island, and support from the top down. Like I said earlier, President Mark Perlange, and then at the time, athletic director Thor Bjorn was incredible too. So the people really matter, and I think that was what's always been special about reflecting on my college experience. Is I think about all the people that had a positive impact on me, and some of them I still talk to today. Like I was talking to one of my friends actually the other day who was a men's soccer student athlete when I was at Iona. And it's like those relationships and those friendships that you forage throughout your time in college, regardless of if you're an athlete or not, you carry those with you as you go on in your life. And that's really what life's all about, right? Relationships and, finding meaningful connections with people. So
Really well said. I couldn't agree more. No, it's not long-winded. No, it's exactly the answer I was looking for and then some. Two follow-ups to that. Number one, are you more Disney or Universal? And number two, how do you stay motivated during the off season? Like you said, it's easy to cave in. So how do you personally would at that time, I guess, stay motivated to keep going? Answer them either way you want. They're very different.
I'll start with the Universal or Disney. I would say Universal as of late because I think I went to Epic Universe actually a few
With
months
the Mario
ago
or the
with the
Super
Mario.
Mario?
So there was
Dude, come on.
Nintendo
Awesome.
Worlds, there the
It's so cool.
new Harry Potter Worlds, which I do think the original Harry Potter World at Universal is a little bit better, but it was awesome. And the special effects are incredible. I haven't been to Disney since 2018. I might have to give Disney another try, but I would have to go with Universal. And then I'm sorry, what was your second question?
No, just as a student athlete, or even now, somewhat, how do you stay motivated to continue to work and to continue to progress? Whether I guess in your career or as a student athlete, either one applies.
I think, well, truly, when you're a student athlete, again, you're juggling so many different things, and I can only speak on my personal experience, but I always just had a chip on my shoulder. I wasn't heavily recruited out of high school. I had two college offers, I think, a Division II school and then Iona, and I wouldn't have had it any other way in terms of I think I ended up in the right place at the right time and was blessed to receive an opportunity to play at Iona. And I never took that for granted. I always wanted to find ways to better myself, to better my team and my teammates and push myself. And I knew that that meant that I had to work extremely hard. And I'm super lucky that I have a support system, even still today, with my family that has always motivated me. My parents, my three older brothers that I have who played collegiate sports. There was never a day where there wasn't some sort of competition growing up or someone egging someone else on to be better. So I have them to look up as my support system and my mentors. And I think like discipline is a huge thing. And it's something that I had when I was in college and I definitely utilize today because as I alluded to earlier, nobody's coming to tell you to do things in terms of whether it's physical fitness, whether it's to read that book or do research on this or to make sure that you're doing what you got to do or what you're setting out to do. So I try to be as disciplined as possible. I think some days, your 100% is going to look different than maybe the day before, but I show up for myself and I show up for my family and my coworkers and those that I'm around because ultimately I believe that my purpose is to serve others and to help have a positive impact. So that comes with a lot of discipline. And I think you have to be willing to put in the work at the end of the day. You can't make excuses. And I think in college, I had my moments where I wanted to make excuses, or maybe I did have an excuse for certain things, but I was always able to have tough conversations with those around me, my brothers, my parents, who would set me straight, or mentors who I could look up to guide me through. And I today I still have that. And I really believe in the power of discipline. I don't necessarily believe in motivation as a thing to rely on, right? Because the motivation's not always going to be there. You're going to have days where you wake up and, I just want to snooze the alarm. I don't want to work out. I don't want to do it. Okay, you can do that, or you can be disciplined and get up and do what you set out to do. And ultimately, I think you develop thicker skin because of it. And so I think that I owe a lot of that to my discipline, but it stems from my support system, ultimately, my family.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, I'm not as experienced in the world or in sports as you are for sure, but I think there are
You're on
days
your way,
where
Peter. You
I'm on
are.
my way. I'm getting there, but seriously, in my personal life, there are days where I just want to hit the snooze, like you said. Like that's really well put. But you have to avoid that thought at all costs. Like, and again, you said it so eloquently and so perfectly. It's hard for me to follow that up, but it's like how do you make someone understand that doesn't get it, like that no one is coming to save you, and if you want to become great at a sport or at your job or whatever it is, or podcasting, we'll say, how do you get them to stay motivated even through those tough times? And I think that's an interesting point about not relying on motivation a lot. um I do have one more question, Jamie. I really appreciate your time.
Of course.
For people that want to be involved in college athletics, if they want to work in that field someday, can you share any advice for those people that maybe are interested in that field, and what information or maybe some advice that you got when you were up on the rise and maybe interested in college athletics?
Say yes to any opportunity that comes your way that might not, you might not feel like it serves you at that moment in time. You might be wondering, why would I want to do this? Going back to, we were talking off air before, right, about doing PA for a baseball game. When I was at Rhode Island, as you already know, I got asked to do PA for one baseball game, one game only.
And you
And it
crushed it.
might, thank you. I don't know about that, but it was a strange opportunity that had nothing to do with compliance or student athlete development or my role, but you have to be willing to take on opportunities like that. And breaking into college athletics, if somebody wants to do that, I think it's cliche, but networking is extremely important. Message someone on LinkedIn, get, someone who's in your field or the field that you're aspiring to be in, and ask them if they have 10 minutes to chat. You might not get a response. That's just the nature of it. A lot of people in college athletics who are senior level are dealing with a lot of different things on their plate. But I guarantee you that there is at least one person out there who is willing to help. And I think that is something that has always helped me, is that I've been able to talk to mentors of mine who I might have met through when I was a student athlete, or through when I was rising up through administration, and continue to rise. I'm a part of a great organization. I actually just got off a call with them, Women Leaders in Sports, and they do an incredible job of bringing women leaders in sports together on different calls, and having senior level administrators, mid level, entry level be on calls and talk about different topics in the sport world, not just college athletics. It could be professional space, could be consulting space. And so I've been really blessed that I've had opportunities to speak with individuals from different paths of life who are doing different things than what I'm doing. But I think it's really important to ask questions, to try to get involved, and ultimately just try to fill gaps wherever you can. Whatever you're doing right now in this present day, if you're part of a different organization than you want to be a part of, you got to find ways to help that organization and to learn from it while you're there. I think there's merit to being where your feet are and figuring out, okay, what can I take from, maybe I'm a student in college, right? What clubs can I join? Who can I talk to at my college or university that is in a similar position to what I want one day? If it's in sports, okay, can I get a call with my athletic director? If it's not the athletic director, can I talk to someone in a different department? So just be willing to, overarching theme of be willing to say yes, put in work that might not be what you thought that you would be doing, and do it well. Ultimately do your job well, whatever that job is. There's no job that is too small. All jobs are important, a part of an athletic department, a part of any organization. And that has helped me along my journey. I'm still on my journey. I'm still learning every single day from people around me, but that's what I would say for those who are looking to get involved. There's so many ways to get involved, and I think just being genuine to who you are and being willing to help are key components of that.
Jamie, I must say, and I am not just saying this because you were on the call with me, but I have asked so many different people that question on this very podcast, that essentially that same question. And the answer of be genuine to yourself has never come up as an answer. So I appreciate that answer. I've never really thought of it that way. But Jamie, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it a lot. Any closing thoughts for the podcast before I let you go? It's been a real pleasure. It's been great to talk to you and catch up. But
Thank you, Connor. Thank you so much. I'm really honored to be here and grateful for the opportunity, and go Tigers.
Go Anchormen, first of all. That's my college's
Go Anchorman
mascot. Go Anchormen. No, don't worry, we don't compete, so you don't have to worry about that crossover. But to all the listeners, all the watchers at home, I appreciate you joining us today. I have been your host, Connor Lewis, signing off.